Menglong did not enter Cbiz as a disruption. He arrived quietly, fitting neatly into the system's needs at the time. His image was clear, restrained, gentle, visually compatible with period dramas and youth-oriented narratives. He was not introduced as a future centerpiece, but as a reliable presence, someone the audience could recognize without demanding explanation. For a period, that was enough. He appeared regularly, held supporting and mid-tier leading roles, and maintained a steady visibility that suggested continuity. Nothing about his trajectory signaled urgency or volatility. There were no sharp rises, but there was also no indication of fragility. His career looked sustainable. This is an important distinction. In Cbiz, visibility alone does not imply momentum. Yu Menglong was visible but not positioned. He existed within the system without being claimed by it. His roles reinforced familiarity, not necessity. He was part of the landscape, not a driver of it. At this stage, the industry's relationship with him was transactional and calm. He was cast because he fit, not because he was demanded. Media coverage followed appearances rather than creating anticipation. Fan discussions remained steady but contained. There was attention, but it never crystallized into expectation. From the outside, this period can be mistaken for success. And in many ways it was. He worked consistently. He was present. He was known. Yet even here, the boundaries were already visible. Yu Menglong's visibility did not come with narrative protection or long-term investment. He was allowed to exist but not built around. This beginning matters because it explains what comes next. His story is not about a fall from prominence. It is about what happens when presence is mistaken for position, and when being seen is not the same as being needed. As the industry shifted, Yu Menglong's position became increasingly fragile. Not because he changed, but because the system did. Cbiz began to prioritize sharper distinctions. Louder personalities, clearer traffic value, stronger online mobilization. What once counted as balance and restraint slowly lost relevance. Yu Menglong occupied an in-between type. He was not a traffic driver, but he was not disposable. He did not generate controversy, but he did not generate urgency either. In a system that increasingly rewards extremes, moderation becomes difficult to place. Casting decisions no longer ask whether an actor fits, but whether they justify attention. This is where invisibility begins, not abruptly but structurally. Yu Menglong was not rejected. He was simply less useful. His image did not clash with new priorities, but it also did not serve them. When projects required sharper hooks, louder presence, or measurable online impact, his name carried no argument. What makes this phase deceptive is its normalcy. From the outside, nothing appeared wrong. There was no conflict, no public shift in tone, no clear signal of decline. Yet opportunities depend on need, not fairness. And the system no longer needed what he represented. In Cbiz, actors are rarely removed for failing. They are more often sidelined for no longer fitting a moving template. Yu Menglong became a quiet example of this process. His absence from key conversations was not a verdict. It was an omission. This is the moment where a career begins to thin out, not through loss but through irrelevance. And once relevance fades, recovery becomes difficult, because nothing has officially gone wrong. The shift did not announce itself. There was no headline, no turning point that could be traced back to a single decision. Instead, the calls became less frequent. Projects appeared sporadically, then not at all. Appearances shortened. Names once included were quietly omitted. This is how absence forms in Cbiz. Not as rejection but as delay. Not as dismissal but as postponement that never resolves. Yu Menglong was still technically active, still present in records and databases, yet increasingly absent from circulation. The system did not close the door. It simply stopped opening it. What made this phase particularly opaque was the lack of explanation. No public reasoning was required, because none was expected. Casting silence does not demand accountability. An actor does not need to be declared unfit to be overlooked. In an industry driven by speed and replacement, omission is enough. From the outside, this absence can be misread as personal choice or temporary pause. But patterns tell a different story. When visibility declines without announcement, it is rarely voluntary. It reflects a recalibration happening elsewhere, new priorities, new faces, new metrics. The system moves on without ceremony. For actors in this position, response options are limited. Pushing harder risks exposing one's replaceability. Waiting risks fading further. Yu Menglong occupied this narrowing space, where action carried no guarantee and inaction carried quiet consequence. This is the stage where a career does not end, but begins to lose shape. Not because of failure, but because the system no longer needs to define it. In Cbiz, failure is visible. It comes with numbers, headlines, and explanations. Silence is different. Silence leaves no trace, no moment that can be questioned or appealed. It functions as a cleaner mechanism of removal because it requires no justification. Yu Menglong's situation illustrates this clearly. There was no public narrative of decline, no role that flopped, no controversy to explain reduced opportunities. Instead, silence gradually took over the space where context should have existed. His name stopped circulating, and with it, the need to explain. This is not accidental. Silence protects the system. If no decision is declared, no responsibility is assigned. The absence of information shifts interpretation onto the audience and the actor himself. Speculation replaces facts. Blame becomes diffuse. The system remains untouched. For actors caught in this process, silence is more damaging than failure. Failure can be reframed, corrected, or survived. Silence offers no foothold. There is nothing to respond to, nothing to contest. Yu Menglong was not told he no longer fit. He was simply no longer addressed. Over time, silence reshapes perception. What was once seen as presence becomes assumed absence. The industry adjusts quickly. New faces take up space. Conversations move on. And because no fall ever occurred, there is no narrative of loss, only quiet replacement. This is how careers are ended without endings. Not through rejection, but through the steady withdrawal of attention. Silence becomes the final decision, delivered without words. Yu Menglong's career did not conclude with a final role or a public farewell. There was no closing chapter the audience could recognize. Instead, his trajectory entered a suspended state. Technically unfinished, yet practically motionless. This is the most difficult kind of ending to name because it refuses definition. He was not removed from the industry. His past work remained accessible. His name was not erased. And yet, forward movement ceased. In C-biz, continuation depends on momentum. Once momentum disappears, presence becomes symbolic rather than functional. Yu Menglong remained, a known face without being an active choice. This kind of stopping is structurally invisible. Without an official endpoint, the system avoids responsibility. There is no decision to defend, no explanation to provide. The absence of conclusion shifts the burden of interpretation away from institutions and onto time itself. The longer the pause lasts, the more it appears natural. For the audience, this creates confusion rather than outrage. Without a fall, there is no reason to react. Without a scandal, there is no narrative to follow. A career that simply stops leaves no emotional anchor. It fades into memory without resistance. What makes this a tragedy is not loss of fame, but loss of direction. Yu Menglong did not fail out of the industry. He was left without a path forward inside it. His career became something that existed only in retrospect. This is how the system closes doors without touching them. by letting time do the work and by allowing stillness to stand in for an ending. Yu Menglong's story is not exceptional because of what happened to him, but because of how little happened and how effective that was. His disappearance reveals a fundamental truth about Cbiz. The system does not need conflict, punishment, or public failure to remove someone from relevance. It only needs to stop choosing them. This mechanism is quiet by design. By avoiding clear decisions, the system avoids accountability. No one is blamed. No explanation is required. The actor is not expelled. He is simply left behind as priorities shift. In this structure, disappearance is not an event but a process. Yu Menglong represents a category of performers who are neither celebrated nor condemned. They fit once, then slowly stop fitting. Their careers do not collapse. They dissolve. And because nothing visibly breaks, there is nothing to repair. Silence becomes the final verdict. What makes this form of erasure particularly unsettling is its normalcy. It happens without malice and without drama. It is efficient, emotionally neutral, and repeatable. New faces enter. Old ones fade. The system continues uninterrupted. In the end, Yu Menglong's disappearance is not a mystery to be solved, but a pattern to be understood. His career shows how visibility can exist without security, how presence can vanish without explanation, and how an industry can erase someone without ever admitting that it has done so. This is the kitsch at the heart of his story. Not that he fell, but that no one needed him to fall at all.